I was dragging my suitcase to the gate when my dad FaceTimed me with 5 screaming kids behind him. He went pale, insisting I had to be there. I simply flipped my camera to show my boarding pass and asked if he remembered promising my time away without asking. He had no idea I had sent a special Christmas surprise to his doorstep to prove exactly who was dumping responsibility on whom. My name is Aria Langston, and for the first time in my 33 years of existence, the air in my lungs did not feel borrowed. I sat in the corner of the exclusive Sapphire Lounge at the International Terminal, a place I had paid a premium of $150 to access just for the silence. The world outside the frosted glass partitions was a chaotic stream of holiday travelers, a sea of red sweaters and panic. But in here, the air smelled of expensive espresso and sanitized leather. I swirled the flute of champagne in my hand, watching the bubbles rise and burst. It was a mesmerizing little dance. Rise, pop, disappear, just like the obligations I had spent the last decade of my life juggling. My phone sat face down on the small marble table next to my boarding pass. It was a sleek, silent black monolith. I had turned off notifications for everything except emergency alerts, but I had forgotten one crucial setting. I had forgotten to block the one man who did not understand the concept of a boundary unless it was built of brick and mortar and topped with razor wire. The screen lit up. The vibration against the marble sounded like a drill against a tooth. I looked down. The caller ID flashed a photo I had taken 5 years ago. My father, Grant Langston, wearing a Santa hat and a grin that looked charming to strangers, but predatory to anyone who knew him well. I let it ring once, twice. My heart did not race. This was the strange part. Usually, a call from my father during the week of Christmas triggered a Pavlovian response of anxiety and guilt. I would normally be mentally calculating how fast I could drive to his house, or how much money I would need to spend to fix whatever disaster he had orchestrated. But today, with a first-class ticket to a place where the temperature was 85 degrees and the ocean was the color of turquoise glass, I felt nothing but a cool, detached curiosity. I picked up the phone. I did not hold it to my ear. I tapped the green FaceTime icon and propped it against the milk jug on the table, adjusting the angle so he could see my face, but not the background yet. The connection established instantly, and the silence of the lounge was shattered by a wall of sound so aggressive I had to jam the volume button down immediately. Aria. My father's face filled the screen. He looked frantic. His usually immaculate silver hair was disheveled, a single lock falling over his forehead, ruining the distinguished patriarch look he spent thousands of dollars a year maintaining. But it was the background that told the real story. Behind him, it didn't look like a family gathering. It looked like a hostile corporate takeover. This was the living room of his pristine colonial house, the one he forbade anyone to wear shoes in. Currently, it was being invaded. I saw 2 large men in bright green polo shirts efficiently erecting a barrier gate across the entrance to the sunroom. Another woman with a clipboard was tagging Logan's twins with color-coded wristbands like they were VIPs at a nightclub. The kids weren't screaming, they were staring, wide-eyed and stunned, as a staff member unpacked a bin of high-end foam blocks. Aria. Who are these people? My father bellowed, dodging a staff member carrying a folding table. His face was red, his neck veins bulging. A van just pulled up. They have waivers. They have liability forms. They said you authorized a site containment. What is going on? One of them just told me to step aside so they could secure the perimeter. He turned back to the screen, looking less like a grandfather and more like a CEO whose office had been raided by the feds. Aria. My father turned back to the screen, his eyes wide and desperate. Where are you? I have been calling you for 45 minutes. You were supposed to be here at 10 o'clock sharp. I took a sip of my champagne. The liquid was crisp and cold. Hello, Dad. Merry Christmas Eve. Eve. Stop it. Stop with the pleasantries, he snapped, wiping sweat from his upper lip. Get in the car. Now. Delaney dropped the kids off early because she had that hair appointment, and Logan he just left the twins in the driveway and drove off. I have the caterers coming in 2 hours to set up for the pre-party inspection. I cannot have this chaos. He ducked as a throw pillow sailed past his head. You need to get here, he continued, his voice rising over the din of 5 children dismantling his sanity. This is an emergency. I need you to wrangle them. Take them to the basement. Take them to the park. I don't care. Just get them out of my sight until the house is presentable. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I saw the panic, yes. But underneath that, I saw the entitlement, the absolute, unshakable belief that I was a resource to be mined. He wasn't asking if I was busy. He wasn't asking if I could help. He was issuing a summons. I can't do that, Dad, I said softly. He froze. The chaos behind him continued. One of the twins was now trying to climb the curtains, but Grant Langston went still. Excuse me. What do you mean you can't? If this is about work, tell them you have a family emergency. I am your father. This is your family. These are your nieces and nephews. I know who they are, I said. They are Delaney's children, and Logan's children, and your grandchildren. And they are your responsibility right now, he shouted. The sheer volume made the people at the next table glance over. I didn't care. We had a plan, Arya. Everyone is counting on you. Responsibility, I repeated the word, tasting the irony. That is an interesting word choice. Is it my responsibility? Or is it just a habit you have all developed, the habit of assuming Arya will handle it, Arya will fix it. Arya doesn't have a real life, so Arya can take the hit. My father's face turned a shade of red that clashed with the festive decor. Don't you dare start with that feminist victim nonsense. Not today. I don't have time for your drama. Just get in your car. If you leave now, you can be here in 30 minutes. I'll pay for your gas. Hell, I'll give you $50. $50 to watch 5 children for what I knew would turn into a 48-hour shift. I can't drive to you, Dad, I said, my voice steady, devoid of the apology he was waiting for. Why is your car broken? Take an Uber. I'll reimburse you. No, I said. I can't drive to you because my car is parked in the long-term lot. Section C, row 4. He blinked. The comprehension was slow to arrive. Long-term lot. What are you talking about? Are you at the mall? I didn't answer with words. I simply lifted the phone. I rotated the camera slowly, deliberately. First, I showed him the high ceiling of the terminal. Then, I panned down to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Beyond the glass, the massive silver wing of a Boeing 777 gleamed under the winter sun. Ground crew in neon vests were loading luggage onto a conveyor belt. It was undeniable. It was absolute. I brought the camera back to the table. I focused it on my passport, open to my photo. I focused on the boarding pass, where the destination code NAS was printed in bold black ink next to the date December 23rd. And finally, I focused on my large, hard-shell silver suitcase, packed with bikinis, sun hats, and exactly 0 diapers. When I turned the camera back to my face, my father looked like he had been slapped. The silence on his end lasted 3 seconds, a miracle in that house. Even the kids seemed to sense a shift in the atmospheric pressure. You're at the airport, he whispered, the words coming out strangled. I am, I confirmed. My flight starts boarding in 20 minutes. Gate B12. The shock on his face morphed instantly into rage. It was a transformation I had seen 1,000 times. Usually when a waiter got his order wrong or a clerk didn't honor an expired coupon, but this time, the target was me. You selfish little... He caught himself, glancing at the children behind him, then lowered his voice to a hiss. You are leaving. Now at Christmas. Are you out of your mind? We have the engagement dinner tomorrow night. Sloane's entire family is flying in. I specifically told you that I needed you to manage the kids so Sloane and I could focus on the guests. Actually, I cut in, you didn't tell me that. You told me you wanted everyone together. You never asked if I was available to run a daycare center for 5 children under the age of 7. I shouldn't have to ask, he exploded. It is implied you are the aunt. You are the single one. What else are you doing, sitting alone in your apartment? I am offering you a family Christmas, and this is how you repay me by abandoning us. I'm not abandoning anyone, Dad. Those children have parents. Delaney and Logan are in town. Aren't they? They are busy, he argued, flailing his hand. Delaney is getting her hair done for the party. Logan is picking up the wine order. They are doing things for the event. The event that you are currently ruining. He took a breath. Switching tactics, I watched the gears turn. He realized anger wasn't working. So he reached for his favorite weapon, Milt. He slumped his shoulders. He let his face fall into a mask of weary disappointment. Arya, he said, his voice trembling with a manufactured sadness. I can't believe you would do this to me. After everything I've done for you, I just wanted one perfect Christmas. Just one. I wanted to show Sloane that we are a close, supportive family. I wanted her to see that my children love me enough to help out. And now? Now I have to explain to my future wife that my youngest daughter cares more about what a beach than she cares about her own father's happiness. He looked back at the chaos, where the juice stain was spreading. Look at this. I'm an old man. Arya, my blood pressure can't take this. If I have a stroke right here, it will be on your conscience. Do you want that? Do you want your Christmas gift to be a funeral? It was a masterclass in manipulation. 10 years ago, that speech would have had me crying, apologizing, and canceling my flight. 5 years ago, it would have ruined my trip even if I went. But today I remembered something. I remembered the phone call from 3 weeks ago. Stop, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through his performance like a blade. He stopped, looking at me, confused by the lack of tears in my eyes. Do you remember the call we had 3 weeks ago? Dad. November 30th. It was a Tuesday evening, 7:45. He frowned. I don't know what you're talking about. I call you all the time. I called you, I corrected. I called to tell you I was burnt out. I told you I had worked 80-hour weeks for 3 months straight. I told you I needed a break. I specifically asked you if the family had any major plans for the 23rd to the 27th, because I was thinking of booking a trip. He blinked, his eyes darting to the side. He remembered. I knew he remembered. And do you remember what you said? I pressed. He stayed silent, his jaw working. You said, and I quote, "Go ahead, sweetheart. We don't have anything big planned until the actual dinner on the 25th. And even then, it'll be casual. You deserve a rest. You told me to book it." I didn't know you would actually do it, he sputtered, the lie crumbling. I was being polite. I thought you'd go to a spa for a day, not fly to another country, and that was before I finalized the catering plans change. Arya, families adapt. You are being rigid and selfish. No, I said, leaning closer to the phone. You lied. You told me to book it because you didn't think I had the spine to leave. And then, once you knew I was available in your mind, you started promising my time away. You told Delaney I would watch her 3 kids. You told Logan I would take the twins. You told Sloane I would handle the noise, so your party would be perfect. Someone has to do it, he yelled, dropping the facade entirely. And it sure as hell isn't going to be me. I am the patriarch. I am the host. I am not a babysitter. Neither am I said. The PA system in the lounge chimed softly. Flight 405 to Nassau is now boarding for first-class passengers. I stood up. I picked up my purse. I looked at the screen one last time. The twins had now moved on to dismantling the Christmas tree. One of the glass ornaments shattered on the floor with a distinct crash. Arya. Don't you hang up on me, Grant shouted. If you get on that plane, don't bother coming back. I mean it. You are ruining everything. I'm not ruining anything, Dad, I said, a small, cold smile playing on my lips. I'm just following the schedule. You plan to dump 5 kids on me today. You thought you could trap me at the last minute because you think I'm weak. You think I exist to clean up your messes. I walked toward the glass doors, the sound of his panic buzzing in my hand. But here is the thing you forgot, I said. I am a project manager. I don't deal in surprises. I deal in logistics. What are you talking about? He demanded. I knew you would do this, I said. So I prepared. Prepared what? A solution, I said. Or perhaps a lesson. There is a delivery arriving at your door in exactly 45 minutes. It is the solution to your problem and the beginning of mine. Aria. Merry Christmas, Dad, I said. Good luck with the juice stain. I tapped the red button. His screaming face vanished, replaced by the serene, black reflection of my own face. He had planned to ambush me with 5 children and a guilt trip that would shackle me to his kitchen for the holidays. He thought he was the chess master of this family, but he didn't know that I had already seen his move 3 weeks ago. I had my own plan. I had a plan to return the responsibility exactly where it belonged, and I had the receipts to prove it. I handed my boarding pass to the attendant. Listening to the scanner beep, it was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. The game had officially begun, and for the first time in history, Grant Langston was playing defense. The seatbelt sign chimed overhead, a soft, polite ding that signaled the end of my ground-level life and the beginning of my escape. I settled into seat 4A, the leather cool against my back, and watched the tarmac outside the window begin to blur. For most people, the takeoff is just the start of a journey. For me, it felt like the closing of a heavy iron door. I closed my eyes and let the hum of the engines vibrate through my spine. It was funny, really. To the outside world, I was Aria Langston, 33 years old, a woman who had her life together, at Northbridge Analytics, the corporate behemoth where I had spent the last 7 years. My official title was Senior Implementation Lead. It sounded dry and technical, but anyone in my department knew what I actually did. I was the fixer. I was the person you called when the data migration failed at 2 a.m. I was the one who could walk into a room full of screaming executives, lower the temperature, and organize the chaos into a color-coded spreadsheet. I was competent. I was reliable. I was the steady hand. And that was exactly the problem. In the corporate world, reliability gets you a promotion and a 6-figure salary. In the Langston family, reliability gets you a life sentence of servitude with no possibility of parole. My father, Grant, had identified this trait in me before I could even write in cursive. I was the middle child, sandwiched between the dramatic flair of my older sister, Delaney, and the golden boy aloofness of my younger brother, Logan. I was the one who didn't cry when I scraped my knee. I was the one who remembered to feed the dog. I was the one who, at 8 years old, was told to just keep an eye on 5-year-old Logan while my parents hosted a dinner party. Just keep an eye on him, Aria. You are such a good helper. That phrase, such a good helper, was the brick my father used to build the prison I had been living in for 3 decades. Grant Langston was not a villain in the traditional sense. He didn't lock us in cupboards or starve us. In fact, to the neighbors, he was a pillar of the community. He was the guy who organized the charity golf tournament. He was the man who always had a philosophical quote ready for any occasion. He loved to stand at the head of the dining table, raising a glass of expensive Cabernet, and give speeches about the sanctity of bloodlines and the importance of sticking together. He loved the idea of family. He just hated the work of it. He viewed parenting and grandparenting as a series of photo opportunities. He wanted the smiling picture by the Christmas tree, but he didn't want to deal with the tantrums that happened 5 minutes before the shutter clicked. He wanted the glory of being the patriarch, but he wanted none of the grime. That was where I came in. Over the years, the dynamic had calcified into something hard and immovable. Delaney grew up, got married, and had 3 children in quick succession. Her life was a perpetual state of high-volume crisis. She loved her kids, but she treated motherhood like a natural disaster that had happened to her, constantly looking for a FEMA team to come in and relieve her. Logan married a woman who was allergic to stress, and they produced twin boys who were essentially 2 balls of kinetic energy wrapped in sticky skin. Logan's strategy for parenting was simple. He ignored the chaos until someone else dealt with it. So, we had Delaney's 3 and Logan's 2, 5 children, 5 adorable, loud, messy, needy human beings under the age of 10, and then there was Aria, the aunt, the single aunt, the childless aunt. Because I didn't have a husband to rush home to, or a soccer practice to drive a kid to, my time was considered public property. In the Langston family economy, my hours were valued at $0. I remembered last Thanksgiving, it was supposed to be a relaxing family gathering at Delaney's house. I had arrived with 2 bottles of wine and a homemade pecan pie. Before I even took my coat off, my father had steered me toward the playroom. "Aria, sweetheart," he had said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "Delaney is a little overwhelmed with the turkey. Logan and I need to run to the store for ice. Can you just hang out with the kids for 20 minutes? Just keep them from killing each other." 20 minutes. He and Logan were gone for 3 hours. They stopped at a sports bar to catch the second half of a game. Delaney locked herself in the master bathroom for a migraine, leaving me alone with 5 children who had consumed their body weight in sugar. I spent the entire holiday wiping noses, breaking up fights over Lego blocks, and cleaning cranberry sauce out of the carpet. When the men finally returned, laughing and smelling of beer, my father looked at the quiet scene I had managed to wrestle into existence, the kids watching a movie, fed and calm and beamed. "See," he announced to the room, "Aria loves it. She's a natural. It's good practice for when she finally settles down." He didn't thank me. He didn't ask if I was tired. He simply took the credit for the peace I had manufactured and poured himself a drink. That was the toxicity of it. My father didn't need me to say yes. He didn't need my consent. He relied entirely on the fact that I wouldn't say no. He weaponized my own decency against me. He knew I wouldn't walk away from a crying toddler. He knew I wouldn't let a pot boil over on the stove. He knew I was too responsible to let the ball drop, so he threw the ball at me every single time, confident I would catch it. "Excuse me, Miss Champagne." I blinked, snapping back to the present. The flight attendant was standing over me with a bottle. "Yes," I said, my voice sounding stronger than I felt. "Please." As the bubbles settled in the glass, I looked at the clouds forming a white blanket beneath us. I thought about the text messages that were undoubtedly piling up on my phone right now, the guilt trips, the accusations of selfishness. Selfish. That was their favorite word for me whenever I tried to draw a boundary. Aria is selfish for not driving 2 hours to babysit on a Tuesday night. Aria is selfish for not using her vacation days to help Delaney move house. Aria is selfish for wanting to spend her bonus on a solo trip instead of contributing to the family pool fund. But this year was different. This year, something inside me had snapped. It happened 3 weeks ago. During that phone call I had mentioned to my father, I was sitting in my office at Northbridge, surrounded by the remnants of a 60-hour work week. I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. My bones felt heavy. I had just finished a massive project rollout, and I had 10 days of accumulated time off that I had to use or lose before the end of the year. I had called my father, looking for permission. That was the pathetic part. Even at 33, I was still looking for his approval. I wanted him to say, "Go, rest, you've earned it." And he had told me to go. But the moment I hung up, I realized the trap. He didn't tell me to go because he cared about my mental health. He told me to go because he didn't think I would actually do it. He thought I was bluffing. He thought I was fishing for sympathy. To him, my life was a placeholder until I entered the real phase of adulthood, marriage, and motherhood. Until then, my time, my career, my exhaustion, none of it was real to him. It was just free labor waiting to be harvested. So, I booked the resort, the Pelican Dunes retreat, adults only, no kids' pool, no water slides, just silence and salt water. I paid for it in full, non-refundable, and then, just as I predicted, the requests started trickling in, the hints, the assumptions. Sloane really wants to impress her cousins. The twins are so excited to see Auntie Aria. We are so lucky to have you to help manage the herd. They didn't ask. They just planned my life for me. They built their entire holiday schedule around the load-bearing pillar that was Aria, never once checking to see if the pillar was about to crumble. I took a sip of champagne, feeling the alcohol warm my chest. This wasn't just a vacation anymore. It was an exorcism. If I had stayed, if I had turned the car around at the airport and driven to my father's house, I would have sealed my fate forever. I would have taught them that no matter how far I ran, the leash was always long enough to yank me back. I would have taught my nieces and nephews that being a woman in this family means serving others until you are empty. I wasn't willing to teach them that lesson anymore. I thought about the 5 kids. I loved them. I truly did. I loved the way the twins got excited about dump trucks. I loved Delaney's daughter's obsession with dinosaurs. But I refused to be the buffer between them and their parents' neglect. I refused to be the solution to my father's vanity. My phone buzzed on the tray table. A notification from my banking app. Transaction approved. Bright Sprout Holiday Services. Deposit $500. I smiled. My father thought I was leaving him high and dry. He thought I was throwing a tantrum. He had no idea that I was actually treating him like a client. In my job, when a client tries to expand the scope of a project without paying for it, we call it scope creep. We don't scream. We don't cry. We simply draft a change order. We outline the costs. We make them sign on the dotted line. My father wanted a service. He wanted childcare for 5 children for 48 hours so he could play the benevolent host. He assumed the cost of that service was $0. I had simply corrected the market value. I leaned my head back against the headrest. The plane banked left, and the deep blue of the Atlantic Ocean came into view, vast and indifferent to the petty dramas of the Langston family. For the first time in my life, I wasn't wondering if I had done enough. I wasn't wondering if I was a good helper. I was just Arya. And for the next 5 days, the only person I was responsible for was the woman in seat 4A. Let them figure it out, I whispered to the window, and then I closed my eyes and fell asleep, while 400 miles away, a van with a bright green logo was turning onto my father's street, carrying the consequences of his own assumptions. To understand why I was currently sipping champagne at 30,000 feet while my father imploded on FaceTime, you have to understand the sheer, unadulterated exhaustion that led up to December. October and November at Northbridge Analytics had been a blur of fluorescent lights and stale takeout coffee. We were migrating a massive healthcare client to a new cloud server, a project that required me to practically live in the server room. I had missed Thanksgiving dinner, not that I was particularly upset about it, given the usual Langston family dynamics, because I was overseeing a data patch that threatened to crash the entire system. For 8 weeks, I existed in a state of high-functioning zombiehood. I slept 4 hours a night. I ate protein bars for lunch. I stopped returning text messages because the mere act of typing felt like lifting a 50-pound weight. My only light at the end of the tunnel, the only thing that kept me from throwing my laptop out the window of the 42nd floor, was a browser tab I kept open on my second monitor, Pelican Dunes Retreat. It was not just a hotel, it was a promise. It was an adults-only sanctuary on a private island where the only scheduled activity was watching the tide come in. The photos showed white linen curtains blowing in the breeze, infinity pools that merged with the horizon, and absolutely no plastic toys, sticky fingers, or screaming tantrums in sight. I had never done anything like this for myself. In the Langston family, money was spent on investments or appearances. You bought a house to show stability. You bought a car to show success. You threw parties to show connectivity. You did not spend $4,500 on 5 days of solitude. That was considered frivolous. That was considered selfish. But on the first Tuesday of December, after a particularly brutal meeting where a client yelled at me for 40 minutes about a font size, I clicked Book Now. I selected the dates with surgical precision, December 23rd to December 27th, the holy grail of holidays, the exact window where family obligations usually strangled the life out of me. By being out of the country during those specific 96 hours, I was effectively removing myself from the equation. I paid the full amount up front, non-refundable, non-transferable. It was a contract with myself that I refused to break. For 3 days, I walked on air. I bought a new swimsuit. I bought 3 paperback novels that had nothing to do with data analytics. I started dreaming in Technicolor. And then, the phone rang. It was a Tuesday evening. About 2 weeks before my flight, I was in my apartment, folding laundry and listening to jazz, feeling unusually peaceful. When I saw my father's name on the screen, I didn't feel the usual dread. I felt protected. I had my ticket. I had my out. I answered with a genuine smile. "Hey, Dad. How are things?" "Arya." His voice boomed through the speaker, overly bright, overly loud. It was his salesman voice, the tone he used when he was trying to close a deal on a commercial property. "Things are fantastic. Better than fantastic. Listen, I have come up with a plan. A master plan. You are going to love it." My stomach gave a tiny, warning lurch. "Oh, what kind of plan?" "Christmas," he announced, as if he had just invented the holiday himself. "I have decided to go all out this year. I mean, really blow the roof off. I've invited Sloane's entire extended family, her parents, her sisters, some cousins from Connecticut. It's going to be a mixer, a merging of the clans." "That sounds busy," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "But good for you, Dad. I'm sure Sloane will appreciate it." "She will," he agreed. "But here's the thing. To pull this off, I need the house to be a sanctuary. Adult conversation, cocktails, elegantly plated hors d'oeuvres, no screaming, no cartoons blaring from the iPad. You understand?" "Sure," I said, still not seeing the trap. "So you're hiring a caterer?" "Better," he said. "I'm hiring a family." He laughed, a short, sharp bark of a sound. "I talked to Delaney and Logan," he continued, steamrolling over my silence. "They are both stressed out of their minds. Delaney is trying to get her house ready for her in-laws. And Logan, well, you know Logan. He's useless around the holidays. So, I offered them a solution. I told them to bring the kids to the house early." He paused for dramatic effect. "I told them to drop all 5 grandkids off on the 23rd. We'll keep them at the main house, get them out of their parents' hair so Delaney and Logan can prepare. Then, on the 25th, we all come together for the big dinner." "Okay," I said slowly. "That sounds nice of you. Dad, taking on 5 kids for 2 days before a big party, that's brave." "Oh, I won't be taking them on," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I have to manage the vendors. I have the florist coming, the lighting guys. I can't watch cartoons." The silence that stretched between us was thick enough to choke on. "Then who," I asked, my voice barely a whisper, "is watching the kids?" "You are," he exclaimed, as if he were handing me a winning lottery ticket. "Surprise you get to be the hero, Arya. I told Delaney and Logan that you would take the lead on the kid zone. You can take them to the zoo, maybe do some gingerbread houses in the sunroom. Just keep them occupied and away from the main living area while we set up. It's perfect. You haven't seen the twins in months, and you know how much Delaney's youngest loves you." I stood there in my living room, holding a half-folded towel, feeling the blood drain from my face. It wasn't just the request. It was the delivery. He hadn't asked me. He had sold me. He had traded my time like a currency to buy favor with my siblings and peace for himself. "Dad," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I can't do that." "Don't be modest," he breezed on. "You're great with them. You have that teacher's voice." "No, Dad. I mean, I physically cannot be there. Remember I told you I booked a trip? I'm going to the Pelican Dunes. My flight leaves on the morning of the 23rd. There was a pause on the other end. Not a pause of realization, but a pause of annoyance, like a fly had buzzed near his ear. "Oh, that," he said dismissively. "The beach thing. Look, honey, I know you were excited about that, but this is family. This is big. Sloane's parents are judgmental people. I need everything to run smoothly. I need my team." "I paid for the trip, Dad," I said, gripping the phone tighter. "It's $4,000. It's non-refundable," he sighed. A long, heavy exhale that signaled he was about to explain something very simple to someone very stupid. "Arya," Money is just paper. You can make more money, but you only get one chance to make a first impression with your future stepfamily. Besides, let's be honest, it's just a resort. You can go to a resort any weekend. I can't, I argued. I work. This is my only time off. And this is your duty, he countered, his tone hardening. Delaney has a mortgage and 3 kids. Logan is drowning in credit card debt. You are the only one with liquid cash and no strings. If you lose the deposit, fine, I'll make it up to you later. I'll buy you a nice purse or something. The insult stung my eyes like lemon juice. He thought my time, my hard-earned vacation, could be bought off with a handbag. He thought my boundaries were negotiable because I didn't have a spouse to defend them. It's not about the money, Dad, I said. It's about the fact that you volunteered me without asking. I have plans. Plans, he scoffed. Sitting by a pool alone isn't a plan. Arya, it's hiding. Look, be reasonable. Delaney can't watch them. She has to host her in-laws. Logan can't watch them. He's incompetent. I can't watch them. I'm the host, by process of elimination. That leaves you. That is not how logic works, I said. Parents watch their own children, or they hire sitters. We don't hire strangers, he snapped. We are Langstons. We take care of our own. Why are you being so difficult? Is this about you being jealous of Sloane? No, I said, shocked. This is about me being tired. We are all tired, he shouted. Do you think I'm not tired? But that is what adults do, real adults. Adults with actual responsibilities make sacrifices for the greater good. You have a very flexible life, Arya. You come and go as you please. You sleep in on Saturdays. You don't know the pressure Delaney is under. You don't know the pressure I am under. There it was, the dagger wrapped in silk. Real adults, actual responsibilities. In Grant Langston's world, my 60-hour work weeks, my mortgage that I paid entirely by myself, my excellent credit score, and my professional reputation meant nothing, because I hadn't produced a child or locked down a husband. I was still a child in his eyes, a child with a credit card. Perhaps, but a child nonetheless, a child whose time was less valuable than the real people in the family. He viewed my freedom not as an achievement, but as a vacancy, an empty room in his house that he was entitled to fill with his storage boxes. I looked at the brochure on my coffee table. The blue water seemed to mock me. If I said no right now, explicitly and loudly, he would unleash hell. He would call Delaney. He would call Logan. He would weaponize the entire family against me before I even packed my bag. They would guilt-trip me until I caved. Or they would make the vacation so miserable with texts and calls that I wouldn't enjoy a second of it. I needed to be smarter. I needed to be the project manager he claimed I wasn't. I hear you, Dad, I said, forcing my voice to go flat. I didn't agree. I didn't disagree. I just acknowledged the noise coming out of his mouth. Good, he said, sensing victory. I knew you'd come around. You always do. You're the good one, Arya, the reliable one. I need to look at my calendar, I lied. I have some work deliverables that might overlap. Let me see if I can shift some things. Just get it done, he said, his cheerfulness returning instantly. I already told Delaney you're on board. She was so relieved she almost cried. Don't let her down. Okay, she's really fragile right now. Another trap. Don't let your sister down. I'll check the logistics, I said. I'll let you know. No need to let me know. Just be here on the 23rd around 10. The kids get dropped off at 9:30. Wear comfortable clothes. He hung up without saying goodbye. He didn't need to. In his mind, the transaction was complete. He had deposited the problem, and I was in the bank vault. I lowered the phone from my ear. The room was silent, but my head was screaming. For years, I had accepted this treatment because I thought it was the price of admission for love. I thought that if I served them enough, if I was useful enough, eventually they would look at me and say, "Thank you, Arya. We see you." But tonight, looking at my reflection in the dark window of my apartment, I realized the truth. They would never thank me. They would never see me. To them, I wasn't a person. I was a utility. I was running water. You don't thank the faucet for turning on. You only curse it when it runs dry. My father had just laid out his hand. He had bet everything on the assumption that I was too weak to walk away. He had bet his reputation, his party, and his peace of mind on my inability to say no. I looked at the non-refundable ticket in my inbox. "I'll be flexible," I whispered to the empty room, repeating his insult. I wasn't going to fight him. Not yet. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for respect. I was going to let him believe he had won. I was going to let him build his entire house of cards on the foundation of my compliance. And then, I was going to quietly, politely, and professionally step out of the way and let gravity do the rest. I didn't feel guilty. That was the most shocking part. The guilt that usually consumed me was gone, replaced by a cold, crystalline clarity. I picked up my phone and opened my calendar app. I didn't cancel the trip. Instead, I created a new event for December 23rd at 10 in the morning. I didn't label it babysitting. I labeled it Project Reality Check. My father wanted me to do the right thing. I decided right then and there that I would teach him the most valuable lesson of his life. The cost of labor is never zero, and the most expensive thing you can ever do is underestimate the quiet daughter. It was the ping that woke me up, not a gentle, rhythmic alarm, but the frantic, staccato vibration of a group chat exploding into life. I rolled over in bed, squinting at the screen. It was 6:45 a.m. on a Saturday. For most people, this is a time of rest. For the Langston family, apparently, it was the time to finalize the conscription of their unpaid labor force. The group chat was named Langston Holiday Extravaganza, complete with a Christmas tree emoji and a champagne flute emoji. I scrolled up, my eyes adjusting to the brightness, and felt a familiar cold knot tighten in my stomach. My father had been busy. There were photos of floral arrangements, massive centerpieces of white lilies and silver branches that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. There were links to cocktail recipes. There was a poll about napkin colors. And then, buried casually between a photo of a wreath and a question about ice delivery, was the sentence that made my breath hitch. Grant. Just finalized the timeline for the 23rd, 24th. Great news for everyone. Aria will be taking lead on all 5 grandkids from drop-off on the 23rd until the dinner on the 25th. This clears the deck for Delaney Logan to handle prep and for Sloan and me to focus on the guests. Win-win. I stared at the screen. Aria will be taking the lead. Not Aria might. Not I asked Aria. Not if Aria is available. Aria will. It was a command disguised as an update. It was a fait accompli. By putting it in writing, in the public square of the family chat, he had effectively stripped me of the ability to say no without looking like the villain who ruined Christmas. I watched the replies roll in, each one a nail in the coffin of my autonomy. Delaney OMG. Thank you, Dad. And thank you, Aria. You are a lifesaver. Seriously. I was about to have a breakdown about the in-laws. This is huge. Can I drop the kids off at 9 instead of 10? I have a mani-pedi at 10:30. Logan, awesome. Thanks, sis. The twins are excited. Fair warning. Leo is biting again. But he listens to you. We'll bring the wine for dinner. Sloan Dad's fiancé. That is so sweet of Aria. What a trooper. Grant. Remind me to pick up some coloring books for them. It's going to be so nice to have a quiet house for the walkthrough. I sat up in bed, my hands shaking slightly. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was humiliating. It was the feeling of being discussed like a piece of equipment. The toaster will toast the bread. The dishwasher will wash the plates. Aria will watch the children. No one asked. Aria, does this work for you? No one asked. Aria, do you have plans? No one even asked. Aria, are you okay? They just thanked me for my submission. They thanked me for being the path of least resistance. Delaney was already booking a manicure. Logan was already planning his wine run. They were building their joy on the foundation of my sacrifice, and they didn't even have the decency to verify if the foundation was solid. I typed a reply. I deleted it. I typed another one. Actually, I have a flight. No, too direct. If I sent that now, the explosion would happen immediately. My father would call screaming. Delaney would call crying. Logan would text me guilt-tripping memes. They would have 3 weeks to wear me down, to bombard me, to show up at my apartment and physically drag me into compliance. I knew their playbook. If I gave them time, they would use it to break me. I needed to buy time. I needed to let them think the trap had worked, so they wouldn't spring a new one. I typed carefully, keeping my tone neutral, professional. The corporate, maybe, me. Wow, that's a lot of planning. I haven't confirmed my schedule for those dates yet. Let me look at my work calendar and see what's possible. I'll update you guys soon. It was a soft pushback, a warning shot. The reaction was instantaneous. Delaney. Wait, Dad said you were already on board. Logan, don't be difficult. Arya, we already booked the restaurant for the 24th. And then, my phone rang. Grant Langston. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. I cleared my throat, forcing my voice to be calm. Hello? What are you doing? He hissed. He didn't say hello. He sounded like he was hiding in a bathroom to make the call. Why are you texting that in the group? You are making me look like a liar. I'm not making you look like anything. Dad, I said, swinging my legs out of bed. You told them I agreed. I never agreed. In fact, I told you explicitly that I have a non-refundable trip booked. We talked about this, he whispered, shouted. I told you that trip was a mistake. I told you the family needs you. Why are you humiliating me in front of Sloane? She's in the chat. She saw you hesitate. I didn't hesitate. I corrected a factual error. You promised my time without owning it. I own the fact that I am your father, he snapped. And I own the fact that I have paid for your college, your first car, and your braces. Do not talk to me about ownership. This is a family emergency. A party is not an emergency, Dad. It is to me, he said, his voice cracking with genuine desperation. Listen to me. Arya, Sloane's mother is a shark. If she sees chaos, if she sees screaming kids and a stressed-out host, she will judge us. She will judge me. I need this to be perfect. I need you to just handle it. Just this once. Please. For me. It's never just this once, is it? I asked quietly. Last year it was Thanksgiving. The year before it was the anniversary party. It's always me. Because you are the capable one, he argued, trying to flatter me into submission. Delaney is a mess. Logan is lazy. You are the only one who can actually manage 5 kids without losing a limb. Take the compliment, for God's sake. It's not a compliment if it feels like a punishment. Stop being dramatic, he groaned. Look, fix this. Fix the chat. Go back in there and say you checked your calendar and it's fine. Do it now. Don't make me call you again. He hung up. I stared at the phone. The screen went black. Fix this. Do it now. He was so sure. He was so absolutely certain that I would fold. And why wouldn't he be? I had folded every single time for 33 years. I was the reliable one, the good daughter, the fixer. I looked back at the group chat. Delaney had posted a crying face emoji. Logan had posted a gif of a dumpster fire. They were already panicking at the mere suggestion that they might have to parent their own children for 48 hours. A cold resolve settled over me, heavier and more solid than anger. If I said no now, they would scramble. They would find a babysitter. Or they would cancel their plans. They would be annoyed. Yes, but they would survive. But that wouldn't teach them anything. If I warned them, they would just pivot. They would find another victim, or they would martyr themselves and blame me for it forever. Remember the Christmas Arya ruined would be the toast at every holiday for the next 20 years. No, they needed to feel the weight of their own assumptions. They needed to understand that my yes was something to be earned, not stolen. They needed to see exactly what happens when you treat a person like a vending machine eventually. The machine takes your money and gives you nothing. But there was one problem. The kids. I couldn't just leave 5 children on a doorstep. If I simply didn't show up, My father, being the narcissist he was, might actually leave them unattended, or worse, scream at them until they were traumatized, or Delaney would drop them off and drive away before anyone noticed I wasn't there. I needed a plan that punished the adults but protected the children. I needed a professional. I opened my laptop. I didn't go to Expedia. I didn't go to my work email. I typed in a search query I had never used before: emergency holiday childcare services near me. The results populated: nanny on call, safe hands sitter service, and then, one that caught my eye, Bright Sprout Holiday Kids Club. Their website was cheerful and reassuring. Licensed professionals, background checked, holiday packages available. We bring the fun to you. I clicked on their services tab. They offered in-home event care. They provided toys, crafts, snacks, and most importantly, certified supervision. The price was steep, for 5 children, over a holiday period, with less than 3 weeks' notice. It was astronomical. We were talking about holiday rates plus last-minute booking fees. I pulled up the calculator on my phone. 48 hours, 5 kids, 2 sitters required by law for that ratio. The total came to roughly $3,200. I looked at the number. It was almost as much as my trip. My father would never pay this. He would rather wrestle a bear than pay $3,000 for babysitting. He expected it for free. He expected me. But what if he agreed to pay it without realizing it? A slow, dangerous smile spread across my face. He had said, "Fix it." He had said, "Handle it." He had told me to make the problem go away so he could look like the perfect host. I picked up my phone and went back to the group chat. I typed slowly, savoring every letter. Me, okay. Everyone. I've moved some things around. I can help coordinate the kids for the 23rd and 24th. The relief in the chat was palpable. Delaney. Thank God you are the best aunt ever. Logan clutch move. Aria. I owe you a drink. Grant. See, I knew you'd do the right thing. Proud of you. Sweetie, I wasn't done. I needed to close the loop. I needed it in writing. I needed a contract. Even if they didn't know they were signing it, I waited 10 minutes, letting them settle into their false sense of security. Then I sent a direct message to my father. Me dad. Just to be clear on logistics, since I'm handling the kids entirely so you can focus on Sloane's family, I'm going to set up a specific program for them. Games, food, supervision. I want to make sure it's done right so they aren't running around ruining your setup. Grant perfect. That's exactly what I want. Keep them invisible. Me. Great. And since I'm organizing all of this to support your event, I'm assuming you're covering the costs associated with managing the kids' food, supplies, the setup. It was vague enough. Costs associated with managing. He would think I meant pizza and crayons. Maybe $100. Grant. Of course. Of course. Whatever you need. Just keep the receipts. I'll reimburse you. Just make sure they are happy and quiet. Whatever you need. I'll reimburse you. I took a screenshot. I saved it to a folder named Receipts. Then I went back to the Bright Sprout website. I filled out the intake form. Client name, Grant Langston. Address 42, Oakwood Drive. Number of children, 5. Special instructions. The host requires the children to be kept entertained and out of the main party area. Full holiday package requested. I entered my credit card for the deposit, $500. It stung, but I considered it an investment in my future freedom. For the final payment, the remaining $2,700, I selected the option Bill to Homeowner upon completion of service. I hesitated for only a fraction of a second before clicking Submit. The confirmation email hit my inbox with a satisfying ping. Thank you for booking Bright Sprout. Your team of 2 senior caregivers will arrive at 10:00 a.m. on December 23rd. I wasn't going to be there, but the professionals would be, the kids would be safe, they would have crafts, games, and qualified adults who were actually being paid to tolerate them. And my father was going to get exactly what he asked for. He was going to get a quiet house. He was going to get happy grandkids. And he was going to get a bill that represented the true market value of the labor he had tried to steal from me. I sent one last text to the group chat, just to seal the deal. Me all set. Drop-off is at 10 a.m. sharp on the 23rd at Dad's. Don't be late. I have a schedule to keep. Delaney liked the message. Logan liked the message. Dad loved the message. They thought I was falling in line. They thought the schedule was their schedule. They didn't know that my schedule involved a first-class seat, a glass of champagne, and a phone turned off for 8 hours while they walked unknowingly into the most expensive lesson of their lives. I closed my laptop. The knot in my stomach was gone, for the first time in years. I wasn't dreading Christmas. I was actually looking forward to it. I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by 3 half-packed suitcases and 2 empty wine glasses. Across from me, sitting cross-legged on my couch with a laptop balanced on her knees, was Tessa Monroe. Tessa had been my best friend since college. She was a corporate lawyer with a shark's grin and a heart that she claimed was made of reinforced titanium. She was the only person who knew the full extent of the Langston family madness because she had witnessed it firsthand. She was the one who had picked me up from the airport 3 years ago when my father forgot my arrival time because he was playing golf. "Let me get this straight," Tessa said, peering over her glasses. "Your father has conscripted you. He has announced to the entire family that you are the designated holiday martyr, and he did this after you told him you were going to the Bahamas." "The Pelican Dunes," I corrected, pouring us both another splash of Pinot Noir. "And yes, that is exactly what happened." Tessa laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was the kind of laugh you hear in a courtroom right before the defense attorney destroys the prosecution's star witness. "He doesn't want a babysitter, Arya," she said, typing something furiously into her laptop. "He wants a scapegoat. He wants a buffer. If the kids act up, it's your fault. If the house is messy, it's your fault. If Sloane's mother raises an eyebrow, he can just point at you and say, 'Oh, Arya is struggling to manage them, and he looks like a patient, suffering saint.'" I nodded. "I know. That's why I can't just not show up. If I just ghost them, he wins the narrative. I became the irresponsible daughter who abandoned her family." "Exactly," Tessa said. "So we changed the narrative. We don't give him a scandal. We will give him a bill." She turned her laptop around to face me. On the screen was a spreadsheet. Tessa made spreadsheets for everything, including her dating life. This one was titled, "Operation Silent Night." "Rule number 1, she said, pointing a manicured finger at the screen. "The kids are innocent civilians. We do not hurt the hostages." "Agreed," I said. "I love those kids. I don't want them sitting on a curb or crying in a corner." "Right. So, no leaving them unattended. No dropping them off at a fire station. They need premium care. Better care than you could give them, frankly, because you'd be too busy resentfully scrubbing cranberry sauce off the rug." "Ouch," I said. But she was right. "Rule number 2, she continued. "Grant Langston pays. He pays in cash, and he pays in social capital. We need to make sure that when the bill comes due, there is an audience." She clicked a tab on her browser. "I've been doing some research while you were spiraling. Have you heard of Bright Sprout?" "I found them earlier," I said. "They look legit." "Legit, honey. They are the Navy SEALs of childcare. They require background checks deeper than the FBI. They have insurance policies that cover accidental destruction of antique vases. They are perfect, and they are expensive." $3,200 for the package, I said, reciting the number that was burned into my brain. Tessa whistled low. "That is a beautiful number. It is high enough to hurt, but not high enough to be implausible for a man who claims he wants the best for his family." "Here is the plan," Tessa said, her eyes gleaming. "You have the text where he agrees to cover costs. Yes, whatever you need, I'll reimburse you." "Good, legally. That is a binding verbal contract, or text contract in this case. He authorized the expenditure. He just didn't ask what the expenditure was. That is his negligence, not your fraud." She started typing again. "We need to bulletproof this. You need to reply to him one more time. Make it sound like you are confirming the standard of care. Ask him if he wants certified supervision to ensure safety." I picked up my phone. Certified supervision he'll think I mean me." "Let him think that," Tessa said. "Ambiguity is his weapon. Now it's ours." I typed the message under Tessa's supervision. "Dad, just double-checking. For the kids program, do you want me to ensure we have certified supervision and structured activities so they are completely out of your hair? I want to make sure this meets your standards for Sloane's family." His reply came 2 minutes later. "Yes, absolutely. Certified, structured, whatever. Just make sure they aren't running wild. I want top-tier handling. Arya, don't cut corners." Tessa cackled. "Top-tier handling. He just authorized the platinum package." "Okay," I said, feeling a rush of adrenaline. So I book Bright Sprout. I put down the deposit. I set the billing address to his house. But how do I leave if I'm not there when Delaney drops them off? "That is the beauty of it," Tessa said. "You don't need to be there. Bright Sprout has a handoff protocol. You authorize Delaney and Logan as the drop-off guardians. You authorize the Bright Sprout team as the receivers. You just need to coordinate the time." "But Delaney expects to see me," I said. "If she shows up and sees 2 strangers in polo shirts..." "She will be confused," Tessa admitted. "But will she be mad? Think about it. She's dropping off her 3 chaotic children so she can go get a manicure. If she arrives and sees 2 professional nannies with a trunk full of crafts and a calm demeanor, is she going to say, 'No, take them back. I want my stressed-out sister instead'?" I thought about Delaney. She loved me, but she loved convenience more. "No, she'll drop them and run." "Exactly. And Logan? He won't even notice. He'll just be happy he doesn't have to deal with the twins biting each other." Tessa closed her laptop with a snap. "The only person who will be surprised is Grant, and he won't be surprised until the bill arrives." I looked at my suitcase. It was open, revealing my bikinis and sunscreen. For a moment, doubt crept in. "Is this too mean?" I asked. "He's still my dad." Tessa's expression softened, but her voice remained firm. "Arya, last Christmas, you spent 4 hours in the emergency room with Logan's son because he swallowed a marble, while your dad stayed home and drank scotch because he didn't handle blood well. You missed the entire dinner. Did he save you a plate?" I remembered that night, coming home exhausted, hungry, to find a sink full of dirty dishes and a half-eaten pie. "No," I whispered. "He didn't. He doesn't respect you," Tessa said. "He uses you, and he will keep using you until you become useless. You aren't doing this to be mean. You are doing this to resign from the position of family doormat. Think of this as your severance package." She stood up and poured the last of the wine into my glass. "Book the flight," she said. "Confirm the resort. Do not cancel a single thing. If you want to be treated like a professional, you have to act like one. Professionals don't work for free, and they don't cancel their vacations because the boss forgot to hire staff." I took the glass. The wine was dark and rich. "You're right," I said. "If he wants to hire me, he can pay the market rate." I picked up my phone and opened the Bright Sprout app again. I finalized the booking. I entered the names of the children. I entered the allergies peanuts for Leo, dairy for Sophie. I entered the emergency contacts Delaney, Logan, and Grant, not me. And then I clicked confirm. Booking ID 88492. Status confirmed. "It's done," I said. Tessa raised her glass. "To the Pelican Dunes. To the Pelican Dunes," I echoed. The plan was set. The trap was laid. And for the first time, the Langston family drama wasn't going to be my tragedy. It was going to be my entertainment. 2 days before my flight, I was in line at a high-end bakery downtown, picking up a box of macarons for a client gift, when I overheard a familiar voice. "I need the cake to be understated but expensive. You know, whisper wealth. Don't shout it." I froze. I knew that cadence. I knew that specific brand of pretentious humility. I peeked around a display of artisanal sourdough. There, standing at the counter in a camel hair coat, was my father. Next to him was Sloane, looking impeccably polished in cashmere. But it wasn't just them. They were with a woman I didn't recognize, an older woman with steel gray hair and a posture so rigid she looked like she had swallowed a coat hanger. And the inscription, the baker asked, pen hovering over an order form. Just congratulations, my father said, beaming. And maybe a small ring motif in the icing, something subtle. My heart stopped. A ring motif. I shrank back behind a tower of panettone boxes, my mind racing. My father had mentioned Sloane's family coming. He had mentioned a big dinner, but he had never, not once, used the word engagement. It has to be perfect, Grant, the older woman said. Her voice was like dry ice. My daughter has high standards, and frankly, I have concerns about the energy of a large family gathering. Children can be so disruptive to a sophisticated atmosphere. Oh, Margaret, please, my father said, his voice dripping with reassurance. You won't even know they are there. My grandchildren are angels, well-behaved, quiet, disciplined, and my daughter, Arya, she's a gem. She's taking charge of them personally. She's practically a professional governess with them. She's dedicating her entire holiday just to ensure our evening is flawless. Is she? Margaret asked, raising an eyebrow. That is rare. Most young women these days are so self-absorbed. Not Arya, my father boasted. She lives for family. She insists on handling the kids. She wants us to have this moment. She knows how important it is for me to show you that the Langston family is cultivated. I felt bile rise in my throat. He wasn't just dumping the kids on me because he was lazy. He was dumping them on me because he was auditioning. He was selling a lie to his future mother-in-law. He was presenting himself as the patriarch of a cultivated, disciplined dynasty where children were seen and not heard, and where daughters were obedient servants who lived for family. He needed me to be the invisible machinery that made his stage play run smoothly. If the kids screamed, if they ran around, if they were just kids, his illusion of the perfect, wealthy, controlled life would shatter. And worse, he had lied about me, insisting. He had painted me as a joyful volunteer to cover up the fact that he had bullied me into submission. I was a prop. I was the backstage crew. I wasn't his daughter. I was the hired help he didn't intend to pay. I waited until they left the bakery, laughing about wine pairings, before I stepped out. My hands were trembling, not with fear, but with a cold, hard fury. I walked to my car and called Tessa immediately. He's getting engaged, I said the moment she picked up. What, who? My dad, to Sloane, on Christmas Eve. That's what the party is. It's an engagement party disguised as a family dinner, and he's terrified that the kids are going to ruin his image in front of Sloane's snobby mother. Tessa let out a low whistle. Oh, the plot thickens. So the stakes just went from annoying holiday to social suicide if things go wrong. Exactly. He told this woman, Margaret, that I insist on watching the kids. He called me a governess. He promised her a silent, sophisticated evening. He dug his own grave, Tessa said, her voice giddy. Arya, do you realize what this means? He can't afford a scene. He can't afford to yell at you. He can't afford to look like he doesn't have control. He's completely vulnerable. He's vulnerable to the truth, I said. He's terrified of being exposed as a fraud. So expose him, Tessa said. But do it smartly. Don't just ghost him. Let the professional sitters show up. Let the bill show up. But make sure you are the one controlling the timing. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel. I thought about the way he had dismissed my career. I thought about the $50 he had offered me. I thought about the ring motif on the cake. I'm not going to tell them yet, I said. If I tell them now, he'll just spin it. He'll say I'm jealous. He'll hire someone else and hide the evidence. No, I need to let him believe everything is going according to plan until the very last second. The scheduled text, Tessa suggested. Set it up. Yes, I'll write about it now. A message to the group chat. I'll schedule it to send at exactly the moment the party is in full swing, when everyone is there, when Margaret is watching. And the siblings, Tessa asked. Delaney and Logan. If they find out too early, they'll leak it. They can't keep a secret to save their lives. I have to handle them carefully, I said. I need them to drop off the kids. If they don't drop off the kids, the Bright Sprout team has no one to watch, and the plan fails. I need the kids at Dad's house. I hung up and dialed Delaney. "Hey, sis," Delaney answered, sounding breathless. I could hear a hairdryer in the background. "I am so excited for the 23rd. You are a lifesaver. Seriously, I was going to lose it." "Hey, Dee," I said, keeping my voice calm. The perfect picture of the helpful sister. "I just wanted to coordinate the drop-off. I'm setting up a really cool activity zone for the kids, so bring them around 9:30 or 10. "Perfect," she said. 10 is great. Do you need me to bring anything, snacks, iPads?" "No," I said. "I have everything covered. But listen, Dee, I have one condition." "Condition?" Her voice sharpened slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I'm doing this to keep them safe and happy. But I need you to trust me on the method. I've arranged for some help, some professional activities. So when you drop them off, just hand them over to the team I've set up in the sunroom. Okay, don't worry if I'm running around prepping other stuff." "Oh, sure," she said, clearly not listening to the details, just happy that the problem was solved. "Team, whatever, as long as they aren't my problem for 48 hours. I don't care if you have a circus troupe there." "Great," I said. "Just drop and go. Enjoy your manicure. Love you. Aria." "You're the best." I hung up. Then I texted Logan with the same instructions. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. They were so eager to be relieved of their burden that they didn't even question why their project manager sister was talking about a team. They just wanted the freedom I was offering. I opened the group chat one last time. I drafted the message. It was short. It was factual. It included a screenshot of my dad agreeing to cover costs, and it included a PDF of the Bright Sprout invoice. I set the delivery time December 24th, 7:00 p.m. That was prime time. Appetizers would be served. Margaret would be on her second glass of champagne. My father would be preparing his toast. I looked at the scheduled icon. It felt like setting a timer on a bomb. But this wasn't a bomb that destroyed innocent people. This was a demolition charge set specifically to bring down a structure built on lies. My father wanted a stage. He wanted a performance. He wanted a cultivated evening to impress his new family. Well, I was going to give him a show. But the star wasn't going to be him. It was going to be the truth. And the price of admission was exactly $3,200, payable upon receipt. I started the engine of my car. I had a flight to catch. The sun was going to be shining in Pelican Dunes. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be in the shadows making someone else shine. I was going to be the director of the play, watching from the best seat in the house 4,000 miles away. The 24th hour before a scheduled departure is usually reserved for packing, double-checking travel documents, and perhaps a final load of laundry. My final 24 hours were spent in a psychological war of attrition with my father. He could sense something was wrong. It was instinctual, like an animal sensing a shift in barometric pressure before a storm. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't cried. I hadn't begged him to release me from the obligation. My compliance had been too smooth, too bureaucratic, and it was making him nervous. So, he did what Grant Langston always did when he felt control slipping. He increased the volume. My phone rang at 8 in the morning, then at 8:15, then at 8:30. When I finally picked up, I didn't even get to say hello. "You need to be here early tomorrow," he barked. No greeting, just a command. I was looking at the timeline. Delaney is dropping the kids at 10. But I need you here at 9 to brief the staff. I don't want you walking in the cold. "Brief the staff?" I asked, putting him on speaker while I zipped up my toiletry bag. "I thought I was the staff." "Dad, don't be smart," he snapped. "I mean the caterers, the florists. They need to know that the sunroom is a no-go zone. I need you to act as a perimeter guard. Sloane's mother, Margaret, she's sensitive to noise. If she hears one scream, Aria, just one, the whole mood is ruined. Do you understand the stakes here?" "I understand that you are worried about your image," I said calmly, coolly, and collected. "It is not about image," he shouted. and I could hear the vein in his forehead throbbing through the phone line. It is about honor. It is about legacy. You don't understand because you don't have a family to protect yet. You live your little independent life, coming and going, spending your money on beach trips. You don't know the weight of holding a dynasty together. I stopped zipping the bag. Dynasty. He lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in the suburbs, not a castle in Europe, but in Grant Langston's mind, he was the king, and we were his serfs. Dad, I cut in, my voice sharp. If this is about honor, why are you lying to them? You told Margaret I insisted on watching the kids. You told her I was practically a governess. Is that part of the legacy, lying about your daughter? Silence, heavy, suffocating silence. I did what I had to do, he said finally, his voice lower. Dangerous. I smoothed the waters. That is what leaders do. And if you had any respect for me, any gratitude for the life I gave you, you would play your part without complaining. You are being ungrateful. Arya, ungrateful and selfish. There were those words again, the twin pillars of his manipulation. Let me ask you a question. Dad, I said, are you hiring me? What? Are you hiring me as a babysitter, as an event coordinator? Don't be ridiculous. This is a family business. We don't hire a family. If it's family business, I countered, then why did you make a unilateral promise on my behalf? In business, that is called fraud. You sold a service my time that you didn't own. You are my daughter. I own your time when the family needs it. No, I said. You don't? I took a deep breath. This was the pivot point. I could hang up and let the bridge burn, but I needed him to walk onto the trap door himself. I needed him to sign the permission slip for his own destruction. Listen, Dad, I said, shifting my tone to something more conciliatory, the tone of a project manager trying to de-escalate a client. We are going in circles. You want a silent house. You want happy grandkids. You want Margaret to be impressed, correct? Yes, he huffed. That is all I have asked for. And you want me to guarantee this result? Yes. Then I need resources, I said. I cannot do this alone. 5 children, 2 of whom are toddlers, against 1 adult. That is a zone defense that will fail. If you want absolute silence, if you want the governess level of care you promised Margaret, I need to bring in professional reinforcements. What kind of reinforcements? He asked suspiciously. I don't want strangers wandering around the party. Not at the party, I assured him. In the sunroom, in the designated kid zone, I have access to a service, a premium holiday kids club. They bring equipment. They bring structured activities. They bring ratio-compliant supervision. They ensure the kids are so entertained they won't even want to come out and see the guests. I don't care how you do it, he said dismissively. Just do it. I need you to confirm it, Dad, because these services aren't free. If I am going to manage this to your standards, I need to know you are authorizing the method. I am not paying for your party prep out of my pocket. He groaned. Fine money. It always comes down to money with you, doesn't it? After everything I've spent on you. Dad, I interrupted, do you want the kids quiet, or do you want to save a few dollars? He paused. I knew what he was thinking. He was thinking about Margaret's cold stare. He was thinking about the engagement ring burning a hole in his pocket. He was thinking that if the twins broke a vase, his perfect tableau would shatter. Fine, he spat. Do whatever you have to do. Just keep them quiet. I will, I said. But I'm going to send you a text confirming the details. I need you to reply yes, so I have it for the coordination team. They don't work on verbal promises. You are so bureaucratic, he muttered. Just send it. I have a meeting with the florist in 5 minutes. He hung up. I stared at the phone. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of the gamble. He had verbally agreed, but verbal agreements dissolved like smoke in the Langston house. I needed the digital paper trail. I opened our text thread. I typed carefully, ensuring every word was a brick in the wall I was building around him. Dad, per our call. To ensure the children remain completely separated from the party and entertained to your standards, governess level. I am booking the Bright Sprout holiday team to manage the Kid Zone on site. This ensures professional supervision and silence for your event. As discussed, you are authorizing this booking and agreeing to cover all associated costs for the service. Please confirm with a yes so I can finalize the contract immediately. I hit send. I held my breath. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. If he actually really read it, he might balk. He might ask how much. He might realize that Bright Sprout holiday team sounded expensive, but Grant Langston was a man who skimmed. He skimmed contracts, he skimmed relationships, and he certainly skimmed texts from the daughter he didn't respect. He saw ensure silence and finalize. He saw a problem being taken off his plate. My phone buzzed. Grant, yes. Just get it done. Don't bother me with details again until the house is spotless. I let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped in my lungs since childhood. Yes. 3 letters, 1 legally binding confirmation. He had just authorized a $3,200 charge. He had authorized the presence of strangers in his home. He had authorized the very mechanism of his own humiliation. And he had told me not to bother him with the details. You got it, Dad, I whispered to the empty room. No details. I immediately switched apps to the Bright Sprout portal. I had the booking drafted. I just needed to hit the final execute button. I reviewed the drop-off protocol one last time. Primary point of contact at site Grant Langston homeowner. Drop-off guardians. Delaney Miller. Logan Langston. Instructions for caregivers. Homeowners are hosting a VIP event and require 0 disturbances. Please bill the card on file homeowner upon conclusion of services. I clicked confirm. A green checkmark filled the screen. Your holiday peace of mind is secured. I wasn't done yet. I needed to ensure the handoff was seamless. If Delaney or Logan showed up and didn't know what to do, they might call Dad, and the whole house of cards could wobble. I sent a separate text to Delaney and Logan. Update on Kid Zone. I've set up a VIP check-in for the kids tomorrow. When you get to Dad's, go straight to the sunroom entrance around the back. The team I set up will be there to wristband the kids and take their bags. It's like a mini camp. I might be running around with the florists, so just hand them off to the staff in the green shirts. They are pros, Delaney replied instantly. Wristbands minicamp. You are so extra. Aria. I love it. See you at dinner. Logan sweet. Does this mean I don't have to talk to Dad when I drop them off? Me exactly. Drop and run. Dad is stressed and stays out of his way. Logan, best Christmas gift ever. They were complicit. They were so eager to avoid our father's wrath and their own parenting duties that they were walking blindly into the setup. They wouldn't question the staff in green shirts. They would just be grateful someone else was holding the clipboard. I sat down on the edge of my bed. My suitcase was packed. My passport was on the nightstand. The contract was signed. The trap was baited. My father thought he had won. He thought he had bullied me into submission one last time. He was walking around his house right now, barking orders at florists, feeling powerful, feeling in control. He had no idea that the daughter he called bureaucratic had just used bureaucracy to hang him out to dry. He wanted a transaction, I gave him one. He wanted me to handle it, I handled it. He wanted a holiday surprise. Oh, he was certainly going to get one. I stood up and zipped the suitcase shut. The sound was final, like a gavel coming down. Your move, Dad, I said. I checked my flight status. On time, tomorrow morning. While my father was screaming about napkin folds, I would be ordering a mimosa in Terminal B. And while he was playing the perfect patriarch for Margaret, a bill for $3,200 would be generating in the cloud. Ready to land in his inbox at the exact moment he raised his glass for a toast. December 23rd dawned with a sky the color of bruised iron. It was the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, exactly the kind of weather that makes you dream of equatorial sun. My flight was at noon. My Uber was scheduled for 9:30. The Bright Sprout team was scheduled to arrive at my father's house at 10. The timing was tight. A Swiss watch of logistics, that relied on everyone playing their part exactly as scripted. But Grant Langston never followed a script unless he wrote it. At 8:15 in the morning, while I was double-checking my carry-on for the third time, my doorbell rang. Not the polite chime of a delivery person, but the insistent, leaning-on-the-button buzz of someone who believes the world operates on their schedule. My heart hammered against my ribs. No one was supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to be here in my own narrative. I was supposed to be a ghost, vanishing into the airport ether. I looked through the peephole. There stood my father. And flanking him, like a small, chaotic army, were the 5 children. Delaney's 3 Mia, Noah, and little Sam were huddled in puffy coats that looked too big for them. Logan's twins, Leo and Sophie, were already hitting each other with mittens. "Open up, Arya. I know you're in there," my father shouted through the wood. I froze. This wasn't the plan. The drop-off was supposed to be at his house. Delaney and Logan were supposed to take them there at 10. Why were they at my apartment? Why was he here? If I didn't open the door, he would stand there all morning. He would make a scene. The neighbors would come out. The kids would start crying. I unlocked the deadbolt and pulled the door open. My apartment was a landscape of controlled chaos. Suitcases by the door. Passport on the table. I hadn't expected an audience for my escape. "Dad," I said, blocking the entrance with my body. "What are you doing here? The plan was 10 o'clock at your house." "Change of plans," he huffed, pushing past me. He didn't even look at me. He just bulldozed into my living room, the kids streaming in behind him like water through a breached dam. Delaney had a crisis with her hair extensions. Logan is, God knows where, so I picked them all up early. He looked frantic, his eyes darting around my apartment, missing the suitcases entirely because he was too focused on his own panic. "I have to get to the venue," he said, checking his watch. "The lighting guys are threatening to walk if I'm not there to sign off on the chandeliers. I can't have these kids with me. They are sticky. They are loud. You take them now." "Now?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Dad, I'm not ready." "You're never ready," he snapped. "Just improvise. You have a TV. Don't you put on a movie. Feed them cereal. I don't care. Just keep them alive until the Bright Sprout people or whatever you called them show up at the house." He turned to leave, his coat swishing dramatically. Then he stopped, spotting the suitcases by the door. For a second, the world stopped spinning. He stared at the silver hard-shell bag. He stared at the tote bag with the neck pillow sticking out. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. This was it, the moment the lie could collapse. If he realized I was leaving now, he would physically bar the door. He would guilt me, scream at me, maybe even refuse to leave the kids, trapping me here. I forced a smile. It was brittle, but it held. "Just packing up some props," I lied. "For the kids' zone, I have a whole theme planned. Tropical Christmas. That's why the bags are big." He looked at me. He looked at the bags. And then, because the alternative that I was defying him was too inconvenient to process, he chose to believe the lie. "Good," he said, nodding. "Tropical, cute, Margaret will hate it. But as long as it's in the sunroom, who cares? Just get them to the house by 10. Will the staff meet you there?" "Yes," I said. "The team is meeting at your house at 10. "Perfect." He patted Leo on the head absent-mindedly, like one would pet a stray dog. "Be good for Aunt Arya. Don't touch anything." He turned back to me, his hand on the doorknob. His face softened for a fraction of a second, settling into that familiar, paternalistic mask of condescension. "I knew I could count on you, Arya," he said. "You're a good girl. You always do the right thing." The door clicked shut. Silence. Then chaos. "Auntie Arya, I'm hungry," Noah yelled. "Leo hit me," Sophie screamed. "I have to pee," Mia announced. I stood in the center of my living room, 5 children staring up at me, my flight leaving in 3 hours and 45 minutes. My father had just dumped the payload early. He thought he had solved his problem. He thought he had pinned me down, but he had made a fatal error. He had brought them to me. He had assumed I would drive them to his house and stay there. I looked at my watch. 8:30. My Uber was coming at 9:30. The Bright Sprout team arrived at his house at 10. I had exactly 1 hour to bridge the gap. "Okay," I said, clapping my hands. The teacher's voice my father mocked came out instinctively. "Listen up. We are going on a mission." The kids quieted down, looking at me with wide eyes. "We are going to play a game called Secret Agents," I told them. "We have to get to Grandpa's house and meet the special team, but first, we need supplies." I moved like a whirlwind. I didn't unpack my suitcase. Instead, I grabbed the emergency stash of snacks I kept for hiking: granola bars, fruit snacks, juice boxes. I packed a separate tote bag for them. I helped Mia to the bathroom. I separated the twins. Then, I picked up my phone. I needed to make sure Delaney and Logan didn't accidentally ruin this by showing up at my apartment or calling Dad. I texted the sibling group chat, "Change of plans." Dad dropped the kids off with me early. "I'm handling transport to the house to meet the activity team. You guys just go straight to the party tonight. Enjoy your day off." Delaney: "OMG, really? You are an angel. I owe you wine." Logan: "Sweet. See you at dinner." They took the bait. They were off the board. Now, the transport. I couldn't take my Uber with 5 kids. No driver would accept that liability. And I didn't have car seats. I canceled the Uber. I opened the Bright Sprout app. There was an emergency concierge feature, a transport escort add-on for high net worth clients. It cost an extra $400. I clicked Add to Booking. I typed in the pickup address. My apartment. Destination: Grandpa's house. Notes: please pick up 5 children and transport them to the venue to meet the activity team. Parent Grant Langston has authorized full service. The app was processed. Driver dispatched. ETA 20 minutes. I looked at the kids. They were eating granola bars on my rug, oblivious to the fact that their grandfather had just tried to trap their aunt in a holiday nightmare. "Auntie Aria, are you coming to the party?" little Sam asked, looking up at me with chocolate on his chin. I knelt down. I wiped his face with a tissue. "I can't, buddy," I said softly. "I have to go on a trip. But the people meeting you at Grandpa's house, they have games, they have toys, and they are going to make sure you have the best Christmas ever." "Better than Grandpa?" Sam asked. "Much better than Grandpa." I promised. The Bright Sprout van arrived at 9:15. It was a sleek, branded Mercedes Sprinter, complete with car seats installed. 2 cheerful staff members in green polos hopped out. "Langston party?" the driver asked, checking his tablet. "That's us," I said. "Authorized by Grant Langston." I helped load them in. I buckled Sam. I handed Leo his juice. I gave the lead staff member the bag of snacks and the list of allergies. "Mr. Langston is meeting you at the house at 10. I told the driver. He's expecting you. Just bring them to the sunroom entrance around back, per his text instructions. The other team members will be there." "Understood, ma'am. We'll take good care of them." The sliding door closed. I stood on the curb and watched the van pull away. My nieces and nephews waved through the tinted glass. I wasn't abandoning them. I was upgrading them. I was sending them to professionals who would actually play with them, instead of a grandfather who would ignore them and an aunt who would resent them. I turned back to my apartment. I grabbed my suitcase. I grabbed my tote. I called a new Uber. Destination: International Airport. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I had done it. I had intercepted the curveball and hit it out of the park. My father thought I was driving behind that van. He thought I was 10 minutes away, ready to serve. He didn't know that I was walking away. I got into the back of the Uber and slumped against the seat. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Dad. "Grant. Are they calm? Margaret is asking if the governess has them under control." I looked at the screen. I could ignore it, or I could play the role one last time. Me. "They are en route. The team has them. Everything is under control. Focus on your party. Grant. Good. Don't be late." I didn't reply. I watched the city blur past. The highway signs changed from local streets to airport terminals. Departures. International. I checked my flight app. Gate B12. Boarding in 40 minutes. My father was currently walking through his pristine living room, adjusting flower arrangements, feeling like the master of his universe. He had his engagement ring in his pocket. He had his future mother-in-law impressed. He had his grandchildren handled by his obedient daughter. He was confident. He was smug. He had absolutely no idea that the governess was about to check a bag for the Caribbean. He had no idea that the team arriving at his door wasn't my assistants, but his creditors. And he had no idea that the bill for his arrogance was about to arrive in front of the one audience he couldn't charm. The Uber pulled up to the curb. The automatic doors slid open. The smell of jet fuel and possibility filled the air. I stepped out. I didn't look back. The clock was ticking. The trap was set. Merry Christmas. Dad, the sun sets differently in the tropics. It doesn't fade into the gray slush of a suburban winter. It melts like butter into a pan, turning the horizon into a streak of violent violet and burnt orange. I was sitting on the private balcony of my bungalow at the Pelican Dunes retreat. The air was 80 degrees and smelled of salt and frangipani. I was wearing a silk caftan that cost more than my car insurance deductible, and in my hand was a glass of chilled mineral water with a slice of lime. My phone sat on the teak table next to me. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. Local time. That meant it was 7 o'clock in the evening back at 42 Oakwood Drive. I closed my eyes and let my mind travel 3,000 miles north. I didn't need a camera to see what was happening. I knew the script. I knew the set design. I knew the actors. My father, Grant Langston, would be standing in the center of the foyer right now. He would be wearing his deep burgundy velvet smoking jacket, the one he only brought out when he wanted to look like a lord of the manor. The house would smell of expensive pine candles and caterer-grade hors d'oeuvres. The lighting would be dimmed to that specific golden hue that hides wrinkles and dust. He had spent weeks curating this tableau. This was his moment. He was about to ask Sloane to marry him, and more importantly, he was about to ask her mother, Margaret, to accept him into their upper-crust fold. He thought he had secured the perimeter. He thought the 5 chaotic elements of his life, his grandchildren, were safely locked away in the sunroom, guarded by his obedient daughter. He had no idea that the daughter was currently watching a heronfish in the surf, and that the guard he was relying on was a ticking time bomb he had armed himself. At 42 Oakwood Drive, the atmosphere was brittle with perfection. Grant Langston checked his reflection in the hallway mirror. He smoothed his silver hair. He flashed a smile that showed off his veneers. Perfect. The doorbell chimed. It was the first wave of guests, Sloane's cousins from Connecticut. People who owned sailboats and used summer as a verb. Grant greeted them with the easy charm of a man who has nothing to hide. Welcome. Welcome, please. Come through to the parlor. Champagne is being served. Sloane was by his side, looking radiant in emerald green. Her mother, Margaret, stood near the fireplace, holding a crystal flute like a scepter. She surveyed the room with a critical eye, looking for a flaw, a crack, a smudge. It is remarkably quiet, Grant, Margaret observed, her voice cool. You said there were 5 children. 5. Grant laughed, a hearty, boisterous sound. Yes, indeed, but you know the Langston way. Discipline, order. We believe that children should have their own space to be children, so the adults can have their space to be civilized. And your daughter? Margaret asked. Arya. The one you said was managing them. Arya is a saint, Grant declared, loudly enough for the cousins to hear. She insisted on taking charge. She told me, Dad, this is your night. Let me handle the little ones. She loves them so much. It's her passion, really. Service to the family. The doorbell rang again. It was Delaney and Logan. They walked in looking refreshed, relaxed, and completely oblivious. Delaney's hair was perfectly blown out, her nails a fresh crimson. Logan was carrying a case of expensive vintage wine, looking like a man who hadn't heard a child scream in 10 hours. Dad, Delaney squealed, kissing him on the cheek. The house looks amazing. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in a magazine. You look rested, Grant said, clapping Logan on the back. Good drop-off this morning. Smooth as silk, Logan grinned. We went to the sunroom entrance like Arya said. Those staff members were efficient. Wristbands and everything. I didn't even see the kids. They just vanished into the fun zone. Grant stiffened slightly. Staff, I thought Arya met you. No, Delaney chimed in, grabbing a canapé. Arya texted and said she was busy with the florists. She had the team handle intake. Seriously. Dad, whatever company she hired is legit. They had iPads for check-in. Grant forced a smile. He didn't like the sound of company, but as long as the kids were quiet, he didn't care. Well, Arya is very thorough. She wanted to make sure everything was professional for tonight. Delaney frowned, pausing mid-chew. It's weird, though. Arya texted me 3 weeks ago saying she might not be able to make it. She said she had a trip booked. Logan poured himself a drink. Yeah, she told me the same thing. She said she was burnt out. I was surprised when you said she volunteered. Dad. She changed her mind, Grant said quickly, his eyes darting to Margaret, who was listening. She realized how important this was. She canceled her trip. That's how dedicated she is. Really? Delaney looked skeptical. Arya never cancels anything. She's the most stubborn person I know when it comes to her schedule. Remember when she missed my baby shower because she had a work conference? People change, Delaney, Grant snapped, his voice a little too sharp. She wanted to be here. She is here. End of story. Sloane drifted over, looping her arm through Grant's. Where is she? By the way, I haven't seen her yet. I want to thank her. It's so peaceful. My sister brought her newborn, and I was worried about the noise. But your grandkids haven't made a peep. She's in the sunroom, Grant said, sweating slightly. With the kids? Well, bring her out. Sloane beamed. We need a family photo before dinner. The lighting is perfect right now. No, Grant blurted out. Everyone stared at him. The room went silent. Even the jazz music seemed to pause. Grant laughed nervously, adjusting his velvet collar. I mean, she's not dressed for company. You know how it is with 5 kids? Juice boxes, glue, glitter. She's probably a mess. She wouldn't want to be seen like that. She's very self-conscious. Oh, nonsense, Margaret said, stepping forward. We are all family here. Go get her. Grant, I want to meet this paragon of daughterly virtue. A young woman who gives up her holiday to babysit. I need to shake her hand. She's shy, Grant lied, his desperation mounting. She specifically asked not to be disturbed. She takes her duty very seriously. Logan narrowed his eyes. He pulled out his phone. I'll just text her. Tell her to pop out for 5 minutes. Don't, Grant lunged, almost knocking the wine glass out of Logan's hand. Logan, put the phone away. Respect her process. Delaney looked at her father. Really looked at him. She saw the sweat on his upper lip. She saw the manic energy in his eyes. And for the first time, the fog of her own self-interest lifted. Dad, she said slowly, why are you acting so weird? Did Arya actually volunteer? Or did you make her do this? I didn't make her do anything, Grant hissed, his voice dropping to a whisper so Margaret wouldn't hear. She agreed. She is doing her job. Why are you all trying to ruin this for me? I'm not trying to ruin it, Logan said, looking at his phone screen. I'm just confused. I'm scrolling back in the group chat. Arya never actually said, I promise to watch them. She said, I can help coordinate. And then you said, Arya will take the lead. That's different. Semantics. Grant waved his hand. Look, can we just focus on the guest Sloane is waiting? But the seed of doubt had been planted. The vibe in the room shifted. The guests could sense the tension. Margaret was watching Grant with the look of a hawk spotting a mouse in the grass. I think, Margaret said, her voice cutting through the room like a diamond cutter, that we should go say hello to the children. And Arya, it seems rude to keep them locked away like servants. Grant's face went pale. Margaret, really, it's not necessary. I insist, she said, taking a step toward the hallway that led to the sunroom. Grant blocked her path. He physically stood in front of his future mother-in-law, a look of pure panic in his eyes. If they went back there, they would see. what Arya covered in paint. Or maybe Arya looked miserable. He didn't know what was back there, only that he had promised perfection, and reality was rarely perfect. "Please," he begged, his voice cracking. "Just give it an hour. Let's do the toast first." 3,000 miles away, I checked my watch. 7:15. The party would be in full swing. The tension would be simmering. My father would be walking the tightrope, terrified that one gust of wind would knock him off. I opened my phone. I went to the scheduled message I had drafted 2 days ago. It was sitting there in the outbox, waiting for my command. To Langston Holiday Extravaganza Group. Chat recipients: Dad, Delaney, Logan, Sloan. The message was simple. It wasn't an emotional rant. It wasn't a tearful confession. It was a dossier. Attached screenshot: Dad text Nov 30. JPG. Dad telling me to book the trip. Attached screenshot: Dad chat text la. Deck22.jpg. Dad authorizing whatever costs and replying yes. Attached Bright Sprout invoice. Final. PDF. And the text itself: Merry Christmas. Everyone, I am currently in the Caribbean, enjoying the vacation I booked and paid for a month ago, the same one Dad told me to book, before he decided to volunteer me without my consent. I did not abandon the kids. I hired a professional team to ensure they are safe, happy, and cared for, exactly as Dad requested when he authorized the expense. I love you all, but I am done being the family's unpaid insurance policy. Dad, the bill is in your inbox. Delaney. Logan, your kids are having a blast. I'll see you in the new year. I hovered my thumb over the button. I thought about the years of missed dinners, the years of being told I was selfish for having a job, the years of my father taking credit for my labor. I took a sip of my water. Release, I whispered. I tapped send now. The progress bar zipped across the screen. Delivered. At 42 Oakwood Drive. The room was silent, save for the clinking of ice and glasses. Grant was still standing in the hallway, blocking Margaret, trying to come up with a lie that would hold water. "It's just that the floors," Grant stammered. "We just had the floors waxed in the hallway. It's slippery." And then it happened. Psst. Delaney's phone, which she was holding in her hand, vibrated hard. Psst. Logan's phone, in his pocket, buzzed audibly against the silence. Psst. Sloane's phone, sitting on the side table, lit up. Ping, ping, ping. It was a synchronized chorus of notifications. The sound was unmistakable. A group message. Grant froze. His own phone, tucked in the interior pocket of his velvet jacket, gave a heavy, ominous thud against his ribs. "What is that?" Sloane asked, reaching for her phone. "Probably a Christmas greeting," Grant said quickly. "Don't check it now." "It's rude." "It's from Arya," Logan said, looking at his screen. His eyes went wide. "Whoa. What?" Delaney crowded in next to him. "What does she mean she's in the Caribbean?" The color drained from Grant's face so fast, he looked like he was about to faint. "Caribbean," Sloane repeated, picking up her device. "But Grant, you said she was in the sunroom." Margaret, who had been watching the scene with narrowed eyes, reached into her clutch and pulled out her own phone. She wasn't in the group chat, but Sloane held the screen up, her mouth falling open in shock. "Grant," Sloane said, her voice trembling. "What is this? Why is there an invoice for $3,000? Grant looked around the room. The cousins were staring. Margaret was staring. His children were staring. The illusion wasn't just cracking, it was exploding. "It's a prank," Grant stammered, reaching for Sloane's phone. "She's hacking us. She's making a joke. She's in the sunroom. I saw her this morning." "Did you?" Logan asked, his voice hard. He held up his phone, showing the screenshot of the text message where Grant had typed yes to the costs. "Because right here, it says you authorized a professional team. It says you knew she was hiring people." I didn't read it, Grant shouted, forgetting the Whisper Wealth volume. I just said yes to shut her up. The silence that followed was absolute. Margaret took a step forward. She looked at the phone, then at Grant, then at the hallway leading to the sunroom. So, she said, her voice like a judge passing a sentence. Let me understand. Your daughter is not here. You lied about her devotion. You tried to trick us into thinking you had a happy, cohesive family, when in reality, you bullied her into hiring strangers to watch your grandchildren so you could pose for pictures. Grant opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked at the closed door of the sunroom. And at that exact moment, the door opened. But it wasn't Arya who walked out. It was a woman in a bright green polo shirt with a name tag that read, Bright Sprout Team Leader. She was holding a clipboard. She walked right past the stunned guests, right past the horrified Delaney, and stopped directly in front of Grant Langston. Excuse me, Mr. Langston, she said cheerfully, her voice echoing in the silent room. Sorry to interrupt the party, but per the contract you authorized, the shift change is coming up, and I just need you to sign off on the dinner delivery for the children. Also, Leo threw up his juice, so we added a cleaning fee to the final tab. She held out the clipboard and a pen. Grant stared at the pen. He could feel Sloane's hand slipping away from his arm. He could feel Margaret's gaze burning a hole through his velvet jacket. He looked down at his phone, where Arya's message was glowing on the screen. Dad, the bill is in your inbox. The stage had collapsed. The curtain had fallen, and Grant Langston was standing in the spotlight, holding nothing but a bill for his own lies. The silence in the grand foyer of 42 Oakwood Drive was heavy enough to crush a diamond. I wasn't there to feel the weight of it, but I could hear it in the frantic, jagged breathing on the other end of the line when my father finally called me. But before that call happened, I watched the digital fallout from my balcony, putting the pieces together like a forensic investigator reconstructing a crime scene. According to the play-by-play I received later from a very apologetic Delaney, the moment the Bright Sprout team leader held out that clipboard was the moment the earth shifted under Grant Langston's feet. The clipboard wasn't just a piece of plastic. It was a mirror. Mr. Langston, the team leader repeated, her smile unwavering, professional, and terrifyingly polite. I need a signature for the shift change. And per the agreement authorized by the text message currently on your family's screens, we need to confirm the payment method for the balance. The total for the holiday package, including the emergency cleaning fee and the rush transport service, comes to $3,650. $3,650. She said the number clearly, enunciating every syllable. Grant Langston, a man who once argued with a waiter for 20 minutes over a $12 appetizer charge, looked as if he had been punched in the gut. That is extortion, he sputtered, his face turning a mottled shade of crimson that clashed horribly with his velvet jacket. I never agreed to that amount. I said I would cover expenses. Expenses means pizza. Expenses means a few coloring books. Actually, sir, the team leader said, tapping the paper with her pen, the authorization was for governess-level care and whatever costs associated. In the premium childcare market, during a federal holiday, this is the standard rate. Do you wish to dispute the charge and have us cease services immediately? We can release the children into the party right now if you prefer. It was a checkmate. Release 5 oversugared, tired children into a room full of crystal stemware and judgmental relatives, or pay the ransom, Margaret, the matriarch of the family. My father was so desperate to join. Stepped forward. She didn't look at Grant. She looked at the invoice on the clipboard. Pay the woman, Grant, she said. Her voice was nice. Do not embarrass us further by being cheap after you have already been exposed as a liar. The word hung in the air. Liar. Grant fumbled for his wallet. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped his credit card twice. He signed the receipt with a jagged scrawl, his legacy of perfect control dissolving with every stroke of the pen. But the financial hit was just the opening act. The real dismantling happened when he turned around. Delaney was standing there, holding her phone, looking at the screenshot I had sent, the screenshot where Grant had written, "Just get it done. Don't bother me with details." "You told me she volunteered," Delaney said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it trembled with a mixture of rage and shame. "You called me up and said, 'Arya is begging to see the kids. She wants to help.' You made me feel like I was doing her a favor by dropping them off." I was relieved," Grant argued, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I was trying to make it work for everyone." "No," Logan stepped in, standing next to his sister. He looked at the wine case he was still holding, then set it down on the floor with a heavy thud. "You were using us. You used Delaney's exhaustion. You used my laziness. And you used Arya's inability to say no. You played us all against each other so you could look like the hero who holds it all together." "I am the hero," Grant shouted, losing his composure entirely. "Look at this house. Look at this party. I did this for us, for the family name." "You did this for you," Sloane said. Grant spun around. Sloane was standing by the fireplace, her arms crossed. She wasn't looking at him with the adoration he had cultivated for months. She was looking at him like he was a stranger she had met at a bus stop. "You told me Arya was difficult," Sloane said quietly. "You told me she was moody and selfish, and that you had to manage her tantrums. But reading these texts, she sounds like a project manager. She sounds like the only adult in this entire equation." "She is manipulating the data," Grant cried, pointing at the phone. "That is what she does. She works in analytics. She twisted my words." "She didn't twist anything, Grant," Sloane said. "You typed yes. You authorized it. You tried to steal your daughter's holiday. And when she outsmarted you, you tried to blame her for your own bill." Sloane turned to her mother. "Mom, I think we should go." "No," Grant pleaded, reaching out. "Sloane, please, the toast, the ring. I have a surprise." "I think we have had enough surprises for one evening," Margaret said. She placed her empty champagne glass on a coaster. "We will not be staying for dinner. I do not have an appetite for theater." Within 5 minutes, the room began to clear. The cousins mumbled excuses about early flights and traffic. Sloane and her mother retrieved their coats in silence. Grant stood in the center of his perfect foyer. Under the lighting he had spent hours adjusting, watching his audience walk out the door, and then he was left with only 2 people, Delaney and Logan. "Well," Grant said, turning to them with a bitter sneer, abandoning the nice guy act completely. "Are you happy your sister just destroyed my life? I hope you are proud of her. She is a vindictive, hateful little—" "Stop," Delaney said. She walked past him, toward the sunroom. "Where are you going?" Grant demanded. "I'm going to get my children," Delaney said. "And I'm going to thank the staff Arya hired, because honestly, Arya was right. We shouldn't have dumped them on her. We shouldn't have dumped them on you. They are our kids. We are taking them home." "You're leaving too?" Grant asked, his voice cracking. "But the catering, the food—" "Eat it yourself, Dad," Logan said. "Merry Christmas." 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I let it ring for a while. Watching the moon reflect off the black ocean water, I took a deep breath of the tropical air, filling my lungs with freedom. Then, I swiped green. "Hello, Dad." You? He couldn't even finish the sentence. He sounded broken. Not sad broken, but ego broken. The sound of a narcissist who has looked in the mirror and seen a crack. "You ruined everything." Sloane left. Her mother left. They all left. "I didn't make them leave, Dad," I said calmly. "The truth made them leave. You humiliated me," he shouted, the old anger trying to claw its way back up. "You planned this. You set me up. You knew exactly what that bill would do." "I knew that you agreed to pay for a service," I corrected him. "And I knew that if you were an honest man, the bill wouldn't be a problem. And if you were a loving father, the safety of your grandchildren would matter more than the cost." "It wasn't about the money," he yelled. "It was about the ambush you embarrassed me in front of Margaret." "No, Dad," I said. my voice firm and sharp as cut glass. You embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed yourself when you lied to Margaret about me being a governess. You embarrassed yourself when you lied to Delaney about me volunteering. You built a stage on a foundation of lies, and you are angry at me because I refused to be the prop that held it up. He went silent, his breathing ragged. I just wanted us to be together, he whispered. It was a weak pivot to the victim card, his last resort. I wanted the family to be helpful. Is that a crime? Do you want your children to help you? It is not a crime to ask for help, I said. But you didn't ask. You stole my time. Dad, you assumed that because I am single, because I don't have children, my life is less valuable than yours. You assumed my time was yours to spend. I paused, letting the words sink in across the 3,000 miles of fiber optic cable. I am not your resource, I said. I am your daughter, and if you want a relationship with me, that dynamic ends tonight. What do you want from me? He asked, sounding exhausted. You want an apology, is that it? You want me to crawl? I don't want you to crawl, I said. I want you to admit it. I want you to say it out loud. Say what? Say that you were wrong to promise my time without asking me. The silence stretched on for 10 seconds, 20. I could hear the faint sound of the Bright Sprout team packing up in the background, the clatter of bins being moved. He choked on the word. I shouldn't have booked you without asking. And I was wrong to treat your time as if it belonged to me. It wasn't a perfect apology. It was pulled out of him like a wisdom tooth without anesthesia. But it was there. It was recorded. And for the first time in 33 years, the power dynamic in the conversation had shifted. Thank you, I said. I accept that. Are you coming home? He asked, a pathetic note of hope in his voice. For New Year's we could try again. No, I said. I'm staying here. I'm going to finish my vacation. And when I come back, we are going to have a new set of rules. If you want me to babysit, you ask. If I say no, you respect it. And if you ever try to guilt trip me with the good daughter speech again, I will walk away, and I won't turn around. Okay, he whispered. Okay, Arya. Merry Christmas, Dad, I said. I hope you enjoy the leftovers. I didn't wait for his response. I pulled the phone away from my ear and pressed the red button. The connection severed. The link to the drama, the obligation, the guilt, it was all cut. I sat there for a moment, staring at the blank screen. I expected to feel sad. I expected to mourn the relationship I had just torched, but I didn't feel sadness. I felt lighter. I felt like I had just put down a backpack filled with rocks that I'd been carrying since I was 6 years old. My phone buzzed again. A text from Delaney. Delaney. Hey, just got home. The kids are asleep. They said the green shirt people were awesome. Look, I'm sorry. I should have asked you myself instead of listening to Dad. I know you have a life. I promise I won't assume anymore. Then a text from Logan. Logan. Dad is sitting in the dark, eating shrimp cocktail. It's kind of sad, but honestly, he needed this. Good job. Sis, drink a margarita for me. I smiled. I stood up and walked to the railing of the balcony. Below me, the ocean was a vast, rhythmic creature, breathing in and out against the sand. The stars were bright and sharp, unaffected by the chaos of human egos. I had spent my entire life trying to be the person my family wanted me to be. The fixer, the helper, the safety net. Today, I did something else. I had been the person I wanted to be. I turned my phone off completely, not just sleep mode, off. I walked back into the room, poured myself another glass of mineral water, and picked up my book. For the first time in history, Christmas wasn't something I had to survive. It was something I could finally enjoy. Thank you so much for listening to Arya's story. It's a wild ride when you finally decide to stop being the family doormat and start sending invoices for your emotional labor. I would love to know where you guys are tuning in from today. Are you listening while doing your own holiday prep? Are you sneaking a listen at work? Or are you, like Aria, chilling on a beach somewhere, I wish? Drop a comment below and let me know your location and what you thought of Aria's invoice revenge. If you enjoyed this story and want more satisfying tales of people reclaiming their lives, please make sure to subscribe to Veronica Revenge Stories. Smash that like button. And if you really want to support the channel, hit that hype button so we can get these stories out to more people who might need a little inspiration to stand up for themselves. Until next time, keep your boundaries strong and your receipts ready.